The Democratic Republic of Congo is a nation scarred by conflict. For decades, violence has plagued its eastern provinces. Among the many groups targeted for atrocities are the Banyamulenge, a Tutsi community living in South Kivu. Since the Rwandan genocide spilled over its borders in 1994, the Banyamulenge have faced waves of violence. They are caught in a complex web of ethnic tensions, political instability, and competition for resources. The Banyamulenge are often wrongly seen as extensions of Rwandan interests, making them targets for armed groups. They're subjected to violence, displacement, and live in constant fear. The world bears witness to a humanitarian catastrophe in eastern DRC. Millions are displaced, and countless lives have been lost. The Banyamulenge's suffering is a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. Their story is one of resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship. Yet it is a story that often goes unheard. The international community must acknowledge the plight of the Banyamulenge. Their struggle is not merely a regional conflict, it is a human rights crisis demanding a global response. Ignoring their plight risks further bloodshed and instability in the region. The Banyamulenge are a people yearning for peace and security, basic rights afforded to all. Their story is a call to action, a plea for the world to recognize their suffering and work towards a brighter future in the DRC. The Rwandan genocide of 1994 casts a long shadow over the Great Lakes region of Africa. The echoes of that horrific event reverberate in the DRC, fueling violence and perpetuating cycles of ethnic animosity. The genocide, in which Hutu extremists systematically killed hundreds of thousands of Tutsis and moderate Hutus, sent shockwaves through the region. Many perpetrators fled across the border into eastern DRC, taking with them their ideology of hate. This exodus had a devastating impact on the already volatile situation in the Kivu provinces. The presence of these genocidal forces inflamed existing tensions between communities and provided fertile ground for new conflicts to emerge. The Banyamulenge, a Tutsi community with historical ties to Rwanda, became targets of this imported hatred. Hutu extremist groups, such as the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, saw the Banyamulenge as an extension of their enemies across the border. This perception led to brutal attacks, massacres, and widespread displacement. The Rwandan genocide's legacy continues to poison the well of peace in the DRC. The presence of genocidal remnants, the unresolved trauma of the past, and the cycle of impunity all contribute to the ongoing violence. Addressing these deep-rooted issues is crucial for achieving lasting peace in the region. The March 23 movement, or M23, is a rebel group operating in eastern DRC that has been at the center of the conflict for over a decade. While the group claims to protect the interests of Congolese Tutsis, including the Banyamulenge, its actions tell a different story. The M23 has been widely accused of committing human rights abuses against civilians, including extrajudicial killings, rape, and forced recruitment. Adding fuel to the fire are the persistent allegations of Rwandan support for the M23. The United Nations and several Western governments have accused Rwanda of providing military and logistical aid to the group, charges Rwanda vehemently denies. The alleged Rwandan involvement adds a dangerous layer of complexity to the conflict. This external support allows the M23 to sustain its operations and challenge the Congolese government's authority. The conflict in eastern DRC is not simply an internal matter. It is intertwined with regional power dynamics, historical grievances, and competition for resources. The international community must use its leverage to pressure all parties involved, including Rwanda, to cease their support for armed groups and engage in meaningful dialogue. A lasting solution to the conflict requires addressing the root causes, promoting regional cooperation, and holding perpetrators of human rights abuses accountable. The humanitarian crisis unfolding in the DRC, particularly in the east, demands the world's attention. Millions have been displaced from their homes, living in precarious conditions in makeshift camps. Access to basic necessities like food, clean water, and healthcare is scarce. Children are particularly vulnerable, suffering from malnutrition, disease, and the trauma of displacement. The international community must step up its efforts to provide humanitarian assistance to those affected by the conflict. This means increasing funding for aid organizations, ensuring access to conflict zones, and addressing the root causes of the crisis. The world cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the suffering in the DRC. The international community must act decisively to address this crisis, hold perpetrators accountable, and work towards a future where peace and stability prevail. The people of the DRC, especially the Banyamulenge, deserve a chance to live in dignity and security. Their story is a reminder that silence is not an option when faced with such immense suffering.